Want to see what you did?
Yes.
Check this out.
Looking back at the video I did on the Stephen Sommers Mummy franchise, it's no secret that I wasn't exactly the biggest fan of his final installment, The Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Despite my criticisms and annoyances, I made sure to point out Brendan Fraser and Michelle Yeoh as highlights of the film. But throughout that entire, however brief overview, my biggest regret is that I never once mentioned Jet Li by name, who portrayed the titular villain. And although it's not completely my fault for viewing him as almost an afterthought, I'll make sure to make it up to him here by giving him his own video. In that less than stellar film, he's not given a whole lot to do. When he actually is on screen, he spends most of it covered up by spotty CGI and is forced to give a stiff performance due to his character being a resurrected terracotta warrior made of clay. The few scenes he has where he isn't a statuesque mummy or cosplaying as King Ghidorah, he gets to flex his muscles a bit as a martial artist and fights with Brendan Fraser and Michelle Yeoh, but due to the dicey editing, you don't really get the full scope of what he's capable of, and his performance is kind of wasted. It sounds so weird to say that about a fight scene between two legendary actors and martial artists famous for their physicality in cinema, but here we are. From Kiss of the Dragon to The One to Cradle to the Grave, Jet Li has proven himself as a fighter and stuntman time and time again. We all know he's goated in that regard, but very rarely does he get a chance to show off his acting chops. And I know for a fact that he can act because just a few years prior to playing a Dragon Emperor, he played the role of a personified attack dog in Luc Besson's Danny the Dog, otherwise colloquially known outside of France as Unleashed. While the ferocity in combat Jet Li is best known for is still present within the film, Unleashed takes a more sincere and earnest approach within its storytelling. As opposed to the somewhat machine-like and calculated nature of some of his previous characters, he brings an almost childlike innocence to Danny.
I just want to do something very challenging for my acting. And also have some idea is violence is not the only solution. That's it. And he's okay. And 2 days later, he said, his language. Here's the idea. Here's the idea. Here's the idea. Little dog. He's mentally like a child, physically like a crazy dog raised by the bad guy. And then he's saved by the music.
Trained by his uncle, Bart, to be a mindless enforcer incapable of thinking for himself, Danny is the trump card of Bart's whole loan shark operation. Played by Bob Hoskins, he uses the threat of Danny in order to force people to pay the money they owe by taking off his collar, a trigger for Danny to unleash his feral rage as an animal would, only calming back down after the collar is put back on. Not only is this collar used as a trigger for Danny, but additionally to reinforce his further dehumanization, slowly but surely stripping away his agency and essentially making him a slave to Bart's will, from his collar to the cage he's kept in, even down to the way he eats. His life has been tailor-made to that of a dog rather than a fully realized person.
You basically turned a man into a dog.
Get me young enough, and the possibilities are endless.
The initial simplicity of his character is further explored when Bart and his crew get jumped before they can take Danny's collar off, and despite being given commands to attack, Danny remains passive as his training, or rather his conditioning, has been so hardwired into him that the thought of fighting back never crosses his mind. That is, until Bart finally gets the collar off and has Danny pursue the men who attacked them, leading to a brawl at a jewelry store observed by a mysterious man. Bart places the blame of the incident on Danny, further contributing to his emotional abuse.
Even a dog has got the brains to come to his master's defense.
Because of that, he decides to simplify things when they visit an antique shop and has Danny wait in the warehouse unless a buzzer goes off, which is the signal to come inside for backup. While waiting, a blind man named Sam, played by Morgan Freeman, walks in and invites Danny to help him out with tuning the pianos.
Piano's a lot like people. When you pound on a person, they get out of tune.
Sam, being gentle and patient with Danny, is the first time that he can remember feeling a sense of warmth and decency juxtaposed to the constant scrutiny and vitriol he receives from Bart, and begins to take a liking to Sam as they play the piano together. However, this moment of reprieve leaves Danny distracted as he realizes that the buzzer has been going off, and he rushes out of the warehouse to find Bart and his crew beaten and bloody, leading him to be subjected to even more abuse. Shortly after, the mysterious man from earlier pays them a visit and invites them to participate in an underground life-or-death fighting ring for a lucrative cash prize, which of course Bart accepts with zero regard for Danny's safety. And with the callous demeanor of one of Jet Li's other characters, Danny calmly walks into the arena and throat shots his opponent, almost instantly killing him. On the car ride back after being offered a reward for his performance, he repeatedly says he wants a piano, thinking back on that small bit of joy he experienced with Sam. But suddenly they end up getting T-boned by a truck, and the crew they beat up from the jewelry store light up the car, seemingly having killed everyone inside. A badly wounded Danny survives, and with nowhere left to go, manages to make his way back to the piano warehouse where Sam is, and falls unconscious. He wakes up in Sam's home where he and his stepdaughter Victoria live, and they slowly get Danny to open up, not by doing anything extraordinary, but just by treating him with a kindness that he's never experienced before. Small things like giving him a keyboard because they know he likes music, or sharing a meal with them for dinner, are actually huge gestures in Danny's mind. Despite their breakthrough, Danny still isn't ready to take off his collar because he knows what that could mean for his new host. He doesn't trust himself enough not to hurt them due to his years of psychological harm at the hands of his former master. He is, however, up to the task of finally stepping out of the house after a couple of weeks, and really begins to assimilate into Sam and Victoria's life as he gets to know more about them. Victoria's dad died before she was born, and his best friend Sam would go on to marry her mother, who died not too long after, essentially leaving Sam a single father. Having moved from the States to Scotland, the two were still able to form their small family and bond through the power of music, and they're hoping to extend that connection to Danny as well. He observes that even when they argue and raise their voices, the love between them is still prevalent.
So do me a favor, huh? Don't make me worry.
Okay, Sam.
In spite of his new lifestyle, his indifference to violence is seen when a man gets jumped in a store, and Danny hardly has any reaction to it.
This one's right.
He's been conditioned not to flinch in the face of danger as a normal person would, and this piques Sam's curiosity as he finally asks Danny about his past, and getting an inconclusive answer in return.
Normally, people find themselves in situations like that. They get afraid.
They weren't fighting me.
To Danny, it really doesn't matter anymore because the love they have for him humanizes him to the point of his past being completely irrelevant, and he's ready to move forward with his newfound sense of self-worth. The very last thing he has to learn to let go of is his collar, the final obstacle that keeps him in the place of a dog. It's through music and the trust he's built with Victoria and Sam that he attains the will to overcome his trigger, and finally, the strength to be uncollared, to be unleashed, if you will. He's made so much progress with his new life that Sam and Victoria come to see him as being a vital part of their family and invite him to come live with them after they head back to the US, which of course he happily accepts. But that happiness gets ripped away from him when he stumbles into one of Bart's henchmen and discovers that Bart is actually alive and survived the shooting. Despite not wanting to see him, Danny can't risk any harm to his new family and is forced to go. Throughout the film, Danny has had this piano melody stuck in his head and has been having these brief flashbacks to his childhood and memories of his mother, so he takes the opportunity to ask Bart if he knew anything about her, which Bart naturally lies about, claiming he knew nothing of her.
I found you in the street, laying on the pavement. You was half dead.
It takes no time at all for him to fall back on treating Danny like the dog he always viewed him as by slapping a new collar on him and marching him back to the underground fights. And despite orders to fight to the death, Danny refuses because he's not in the mindset of hurting people anymore.
That's what you do. You hurt people.
Not anymore.
He's pushed into the arena by Bart, where he's forced to defend himself from his attacker, holding back and playing defense, a diametric opposition to the aggressive and rabid nature of his previous fighting style. But with the intensity and the participants in the fight increasing, it isn't long before he's compelled to tap into those animal instincts for the sake of his own survival and to dismantle his opponents. He manages to take them down without taking them out because that isn't who he is anymore. Bart isn't too happy about it, and he throws Danny back into his old cage, from which he later escapes and goes through some old pictures only to find one of his mother. After being confronted, Bart confesses that Danny's mother was a sex worker who he would frequent, and he supposedly took in Danny after she died out of a sense of responsibility. In his own twisted way, he tries to imbue the lesson that families should stick together despite tragedy within Danny, but Danny takes that lesson a different way and crashes the car in order to get back to his real family.
My mother, she was a fool.
After showing the picture of his mom to Sam and Victoria, Sam deduces where it was taken based on the description. With the help of one of the old instructors, Danny regains the lost memories of his mother. A musical prodigy, she was a talented pianist at a school who would offer herself to Bart in order to pay for her lessons and provide for her son. Victoria manages to figure out the song that she was playing in the picture and plays it for Danny, which triggers another memory. After being hidden by his mother, Bart arrives only to have his advances rejected by being smashed in the head with a vase. This enrages him to the point of shooting her in the head with Danny watching. Bursting from the closet, he shoves a man into a wall before being knocked out by Bart, who decides to kidnap him, being impressed with the boy's potential. Those traumatic events force Danny to repress his memories, leading him to where he is today. Through intimidation, Bart figures out where Danny has been living and sends a squad of goons after him. Danny hides Sam and Victoria in a closet, shading back to when his mother did the same for him. As he fights his way through the goon squad and through the building, martial arts choreographer Yun Woo Ping is able to bring out the best in Lee due to their established chemistry from previous projects, giving action fans the adrenaline boost they've been craving throughout the duration of this more subdued film.
You better get in now.
The fight goes sideways enough that Bart sends in a new enforcer named the Stranger, at least that's how he's listed in the credits, as a direct challenge to Danny. His brief and minor antagonistic role serves as a dark reflection of Danny being a silent yet brutal enforcer who obediently obeys Bart's commands without the restraint of a collar. The Stranger represents what Danny could have become had he not been saved by Sam and Victoria, so in a way, by overcoming this new enemy, he'd ostensibly be overcoming a previous version of himself. After a ferocious skirmish, Danny is presented with the opportunity to let the Stranger fall to his death, but still tries in vain to save him because he has no desire to kill anymore. Fed up with these continuous failures, Bart finally decides to handle it himself, tracking Danny down in the building and begins shooting at him in frustration. He eventually makes his way up to Sam and Victoria's apartment where Danny is and berates him for living as a man and not as a subservient pet. Throughout the film, we've seen Bart shift the blame to his lackeys and Danny for his own shortcomings because he's psychologically unable to hold himself accountable, and he falls back onto old habits and attempts to scapegoat Danny once more.
You're a dog. You're my dog. I fed you, I trained you, I own you. And I should kill you. Like any responsible owner would do to a dog that causes this much pain and this much suffering.
He tries to appeal to Danny by convincing him that he can make the world simple again, and just when he thinks he's got Danny back on the hook, like his mother before him, Danny defies Bart in a powerful and character-defining moment.
Welcome home, Danny. I am home.
After Bart tries to shoot him, Danny's years of repressed rage comes boiling to the surface as he launches an assault on his former master despite pleas from Sam and Victoria to stop, being pulled in two different directions. Bart, being the monster he is, tries to convince Danny to kill him by attempting to solidify his animalistic nature once and for all, but thankfully he's shut down by Danny's more reasonable father figure.
That man could talk some serious shit.
The film concludes with Danny trading in his collar for a bow tie as Victoria dedicates her piano recital to him by playing the song his mother would play, Mozart's Piano Sonata No. 11. So I suppose it's only apropos to end this video with a quote from the man himself. Neither a lofty degree of intelligence, nor imagination, nor both together go to the making of genius. Love, love, love. That is the soul of a genius. And that is music to my ears.
I very appreciate the director gave me the music. The music is really help. Somebody give the music, I heard the music, and I just act. I just use my heart to listen to the music, and I really feel it. Then I really touch my heart to the music, and then I start crying. Lulu just hold the camera, didn't cut, just shoot. Maybe for 5 minutes, never cut. So just like the actor played like on the stage. Like on the stage. Then you have time to think. You have time to feel it. Then if the true feeling come out.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Yeah, I dabble in keyboard a little bit. I know I'm not playing with my thumbs, but shut up. Speaking of thumbs, if you like the video, go ahead and press the thumbs up button for me as we continue to grow here on YouTube, and leave a comment letting me know what your favorite Jet Li movie is, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm Josh Fleeks. Till next time, y'all be easy.